Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk podcast with your host, Melissa Anthonette.
Good morning, everyone. I am so excited to be here. This is our very first podcast. All right. So I'm here with two of my really good friends. First of all, we have George Foreman the Fourth. All right. And he is son of champion boxer George Foreman the First. He is an entrepreneur. And of course, he is a student at Texas Southern University. And we also have Jacobie Backstrom, one of my really long-time good friends, all right? And he's an academic advisor here at Texas Southern University. So how are you guys doing this morning?
I am actually really excited, Melissa. I'm glad to be here with you and George. I'm just excited about the conversation we're about to have.
Yes.
Well, I get to hang out with you, so it's a beautiful day when I get to sit, hang out with you, and talk that talk.
Yes. So today we are going to be talking about the fatherlessness epidemic among African Americans. So I was actually doing some research, and based on the U.S. Census Bureau for 2020, it actually says that less than 2/5 of African American children live with both parents. My heart sank. So of course I called my friend George, I called my friend Jacobie, and I was like, you know what, guys, we have to discuss this. This is serious. All right. So I want to talk to George first. George, we know your dad is champion boxer George Foreman, and I think he named all of his sons George Foreman, right?
That's right. All five sons all have the same name.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what was it like growing up with your dad?
Well, part of having the same name as your dad and your brothers, you get this feeling of presence. With me is my brother. With me at all times is my father. With me at all times is the youngest or the oldest. So there's a sense of accountability. So whether they're in the house with you or not for the day, you still feel connected with your brothers and with your dad at all times.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely, you know. And I also grew up with my dad, so I know how important it is to have that father figure in the home, all right? As a matter of fact, I was also reading, because, you know, I'm a researcher, all right? So, you know, I was also reading that children who grow up with the father in the home, they actually have a higher self-esteem. All right. And so that's one of the reasons why we have to work. We have to put our heads together and see how we can solve this fatherless epidemic among African Americans. So my friend Jacobie, he said that he had a completely different experience. So I would just like to hear a little bit about your experience, Jacobie.
Yes, so I actually grew up without knowing who my father is. Never
Wow.
seen him before. And I think that that missing piece did affect me, but I will say that there were people that I could lean on, such as my uncle. My uncle served as that guidance for me. He served as that person that I could lean on and fill that void. Obviously, you know, it did feel internally as if, you know, there was a piece of me that was missing, but it was good to lean on someone who was representative of my father.
Oh, definitely. Well, you know what? Thanks to all those uncles and brothers that step up and fill that role. Because I believe that it takes a village to raise a child.
100%.
And so if the dad is not around, you know, like, I don't think it's right for people to say, well, you know what? Hey, well, you know, well, that's your problem. No, I think that uncles and brothers should continue to step up. All right? So I'm just going to ask George. George, did your dad like sit down with you and have personal talks with you? Because when I talk to George, it's like he's just beaming with self-confidence. So I just need to know where that came from. Is it from your dad?
Well, absolutely. Well, there's definitely the impact that my father had in my life, but there were also so many other positive male role models that my mother and father put me in front of. Hey, learn from this guy. Spend the day outside working with this guy. Spend the day studying this electric. Hey, there's a guy here to fix the AC. Sit and watch him.
Wow.
My parents put me in positions to be influenced by positive male role models. And that's part of culture. And having the awareness as a parent to say, you know what, I don't have all the answers, but I need to put my child in a place where they can find those solutions. And that's what my parents tried to do.
Yes. So, Jacobie, how did it make you feel that, you know, you never met your dad?
Oh, it was definitely I didn't always entertain that feeling. I never gave that feeling much of attention sometimes. Maybe I was avoiding it because, I had my uncle, but I also felt more of an attachment to male figures in my high school too as well. So in school, I was in theater, so I always would attach myself to like those male figures in high school, like my theater director, or more so like my teachers or things of that nature. Someone who was representative of those things.
All right, so I'm a traditional girl, and I believe that the dad is the protector of the home.
Yes.
I believe he's the protector of the family.
Yeah.
And I've heard of cases where persons did not have dads, and they would have leaned on a male role model.
Yeah, 100%.
And of course, there were success stories like Jacobie.
Right.
But on the flip side of that, I've actually heard of some really bad cases where they leaned on that male role model for support, and that person just took advantage of them. All right. So those are some of the things that we really need to take into consideration. Now, I would like to ask George this question. George, did your dad like attend all of your school meetings and your plays and your games?
No. No, my dad obviously he suffered from a condition of celebrity. And if he showed up, I remember one time he came to my school, and I remember seeing his face through the door and being like, oh no, I'm in trouble. But he was actually, the school had invited him to show off his championship belt. So it was a distraction enough that my trouble was no longer an issue. But you see how that was definitely a chance to have an impact on my education, but instead all the direction turned to him.
Yeah.
And he recognized that early on. So he would let school be my safe place. Obviously my mom was holding me accountable.
Yeah.
When grades came in, he always knew. I get the call, what are you doing? He had a presence, but he knew to let me enjoy my individuality in school.
Yes, and I actually like that.
While also respecting his rules. So
Yes.
individuality with oversight.
Yes.
He would tell me, you don't have to be the smartest, you don't have to be the fastest, you don't even have to be the best at math, but you better be the nicest, most respectful kid in school.
Wow, that's
what his
awesome.
command. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to fight, I'll put you in the ring. If you want to, whatever you want to do, I have a solution
If you
for
want to fight, I'll put you in the ring.
That's it. Yeah. But I want to put you in a place to be successful, and that means be respectful.
Yes, I love that. So this question is for Jacobie. And let me just give you some background as to why I'm asking this question. So I had become a single parent a couple years ago. And so wherever I went, it would just be me and the two little girls. And I'm telling you, like, I don't know how my girls felt like when we turned up at school events and there were kids with both mom and dad. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they felt. They never told me how they felt. But I felt so bad. Mm-hmm. I felt like, oh my God, like everybody's in here, mother and father with child. And it's just, me as that single parent in here with these two girls. And it really made me feel like embarrassed. It made me feel ashamed, Mm-hmm. So I want to know how, and that's from, a single mom perspective. So how did you feel as a child when you would turn up at events and everybody's there with their biological dad?
Oh, yeah, it was definitely like a part of me was missing. Like if I felt sometimes unsupported, that's why I always leaned on my grandmother to always be there for me. It just felt, it did feel like, I wasn't as supported without having that father figure there. My uncle always worked, so he wasn't able to make it sometimes.
To attend every single meeting.
He wasn't. There were times where, I didn't have that presence when I would do those activities. But, I also just knew no matter how I felt, I had to keep going. I was doing something positive. I wasn't out in the streets. So, although I was missing that factor, I just continued to persist.
Awesome. So, George, this question is for you. Okay, so since you had your dad always in the picture, did it prevent you from getting into trouble?
No. No, absolutely not. I think in part of being a young boy and becoming a young man is learning how close you can get to the burner
Yeah.
without getting burned.
burnt.
And having a dad, I'll tell you what, my dad raising me in church more than anything was a blessing, because that prevented me from making particular mistakes, because I knew there were certain things you can't come back from. So I had that mindfulness instilled from my father about just conduct and behavior, and what people think of you when you are a certain type of person. That was more so what he would instill on me. But that didn't stop me from getting into trouble. I just had to learn the hard way sometimes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And what about you?
I didn't have that guidance. Like, I didn't have that intentionality. As George has been like put in specific intentional spaces to learn, I've had to learn through life how to, what to avoid. It didn't stop me from getting in trouble. I was in anger management as a young kid.
Wow.
I was acting out, you know. So I learned, I was.
And where did that anger come from?
You know, I honestly don't know. Sometimes it was just for attention. I believe that it was maybe that was an intentional thing. Maybe it didn't, you know, although my uncle was served as that representative of my father, he was always working. Yeah. So when I come home, you know, I didn't have that, you know, guidance all the time, intentionality. You know, I didn't have someone just on me or, you know, guided me in that right direction. So
gentlemen, anyone of you can take this, or both of you can take this. Does it take a man to teach a man how to be a man? Or can a single woman, or I should say single mom, do it successfully, right? Teach a man to be a man successfully as how a man can do it.
I want to hear what you think. I have my own opinion, but I want to hear what you think.
he's putting me on the spot.
I want you to go first. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
So I do think it really requires a partnership between the mom and the father, right? I don't think that, I think that a woman has that ability to raise that son and teach, but I also think that it is very important for that male figure to be in their life. And I do believe that with that partnership between both the mom and the father, that they can value add to that son and ensuring that they're in spaces to where he can grow to be who he needs to be.
All right.
Society
all right. Yeah.
That's a tough one. My mind went kind of philosophical, so I'll be a little more broad, but I know that the mothers have such an influence in what the sons become, and what the mothers have a passion for, and an attraction to, and a focus on. The sons pay attention to that, and they will even model themselves so that the mom is impressed by them based on what she likes, good or bad.
Wow.
That being said, but men, I think, are made by God. Men are not man-made. Men are God-made by God. So that being said, as long as a woman can make them, God can make a man of them.
All right.
But that's what I'm talking about.
All right.
But her behavior, her passions, her attractions will impact this young boy and determine what type of man he becomes. I believe that.
I wouldn't cancel the mother out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't cancel her out.
All right.
I say it takes two.
It takes two. It's that partnership.
Also, it takes whatever God's going to take this individual and make him into for the world to see. A man can lead a nation, a woman too. A man can do incredible things.
Yes.
But you have to decide you want to be a man and have the impact of a man to actually take on that role.
100%.
Yeah. So, if you were to sum up your life, Jacobie, up to this point, in let's say 1 minute, what would you say? Because what I didn't mention, even though I said that, or introduced Jacobie as being an academic advisor at Texas Southern University, I did not say that he has a lot of degrees. Yeah. I did not list all of his accomplishments, and he is pretty accomplished for such a young man. Yeah. So, if you were to sum up your life, how would you describe yourself? Because you're literally the product of an environment that did not have a father figure.
That is,
or I should say, did not have a father. Yeah. Did not have a full-time father, because you did have your uncle, but of course, you know, he did his best. Yes. But he couldn't be there all the time like a dad. You know, a dad is usually there, right? So if you were to sum up your life, like, how would you describe it? Because to me, you've literally transformed yourself. Yeah. You've had to make certain decisions. So,
trailblazer, definitely in my family. I haven't intentionally started a family yet because I want to provide a space for my wife, for my sons to prosper. That's why the sacrifices that I'm making, I want to ensure that my wife is goal-oriented, that she's able to do whatever she wants to do, and my kids have the space to do that too.
Yeah.
It's about breaking those generational curses. Because I didn't have a father, that inspires me to be 100% there for them, 100% present for them. And I do believe that, again, that's why I intentionally want to be done with school. I want to be positioned the right way professionally, because I do believe that my kids deserve all of my attention. My wife deserves all of my attention, and that they should have the space to prosper and grow however they want to.
All right, so I absolutely love that, because life happens to all of us. And for George did grow up with both parents, but I'm sure life happened to you too. There must have been something in life that happened that may have brought you to crossroads where you had to decide, look, I'm going to go this direction or I'm going to go in that direction, right? So since life happens to all of us, what was the point for you, Jacobie, where you said, you know what, hey, I am not going to go down this road. I am not going to create another fatherless home. I am not going to be a statistic. I'm not going to fall by the wayside. Like, what was that moment for you?
When I look at African American men who are doing great things, like who have a family that is still goal oriented, that still battles through life's circumstances, but continues to move forward, that lets me know I don't have an excuse.
Awesome.
Yes. So I see amazing examples of African American men who are just doing great things and still battling through life.
Yes.
So that which inspires me to say, I can stay on this path. I can still experience the issues that I'm going through, internal, external, and I can still impact positively.
Definitely. And so right now, I just want to take this opportunity to talk to all of the African American men who know, you're doing your best. I want to tell you, keep doing your best, because there's some little kid out there who doesn't have a dad, and he is literally looking up to you, all right? Yeah. And you might be thinking, you know what, how can I make an impact? I just have my little job, and I really don't have time to mentor people. Yes. Maybe you want to mentor kids, but you just don't have the time for it. But I would say just keep doing your best, because some kid is looking at you and they're drawing inspiration from you, all right? So we're going to close off with George giving the final words today.
Wow.
All right. So George, I want you to send a message to all the African American fathers, because you're obviously the product of a really great African American dad. I've had the privilege to interact a lot with George, and I think the first time I actually saw George, I didn't know who he was, but I said, this young man is so he's so mannerly, and he's so well spoken, he's so humble, and so I was like, okay, well, maybe his granny is a preacher, or he probably grew up in church or something, right? Mm-hmm. But I really didn't know all of his story. So I just want you to give the fathers right now some kind of encouragement, to keep going on.
Yeah, if I could give an encouraging message to all the fathers, those, especially if you're living in America, yes, you can. That's the message I would say.
We're speaking specifically to the African American dads, because this is where the problem lies.
Yes, absolutely. You can. You can father. You can parent. You can be involved. You can play whatever role you want in your child's life. There is nothing in this country preventing you from doing that, and no one preventing you from doing that.
Exactly.
Make time to be a dad, number one, and then everything else will follow as a blessing.
Alrighty. So thank you so much, Jacobie, and thank you so much, George, for being on the Let's Talk podcast. And one of the things I would really like to encourage single moms with right now, even if you and the dad are not seeing eye to eye, y'all are not living together, y'all are broken up, please allow that man to be a part of that child's life, because it takes two parents to raise a child, all right? And whatever you do, it ultimately impacts the child. So on that note, see y'all next time.